This is the Analysis in Chains with Nathan Williams and Neil Kieran.
Welcome to Analysis in Chains by CryptoNews.com, your daily source of all things crypto. I'm Nathan Williams, and joining me today is Bradley Zastrow, the head of global business development at Dash. Bradley, thank you for joining me today.
No, thank you very much, Nathan. I appreciate the invite.
Tell us a little bit about Dash. We've done an early podcast episode on Dash back, I think, last September or October when we were researching. We talked a bit about how it was a fork of the Bitcoin blockchain originally, how you have instant pay using masternodes, but maybe you can just give us a little recap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned, Dash has been around for a little while. We started in January of 2014 as a fork of the Bitcoin network. And really what Dash is about, we are an alternative form of payment. We see the world today, we see the world of payments today as one that has a lot of friction. Payments take too long and they cost too much. And as a result, at Dash, we feel that we have a best-in-class solution to, really solve some of those payment problems. As you mentioned around the instant send, what Dash focuses on is being very, very quick. So our instant send is near Visa-like confirmation speeds in that kind of 1 to 2 second range. And then also being very inexpensive to transact. So that instant send currently costs about 2.5 US cents, regardless of the balance. So that's our key focus on that payment side. But then additionally with Dash, I think one of the other unique attributes is, we focus very much on the technology and the solution that we're providing to our users. But additionally, we also have a very strong governance program that I think also sets us apart as it allows us to really kind of drive the business forward. We are a self-funding company. We never went through an ICO. We are not kind of, I guess, beholden to say that kind of specialized or centralized interests of any sort around that type of investors, but rather instead what happens is with Dash, we have an additional layer that we call the master nodes. And those master nodes, you have to prove ownership of 1,000 Dash. You don't actually have to stake it anywhere, but you're just really proving that you have skin in the game.
That's about like $250,000 or something like that, right?
Significant amount of money, absolutely right.
It's not just walking around money.
Nah, exactly. It's not the change you find underneath the couch cushion, as it were. But what that really allows, I think, what's kind of exciting from my view as well is, I guess if we take a step back and we look at, say, the Superblock reward, most every cryptocurrency out there with that mining layer, the miners are earning 100% of the reward. With Dash, we do it a little bit differently with the masternode layer. And what we're doing is we're splitting that 45 and 45% between the miners and then between the masternodes. What that gives us is a 10% delta, and that delta then goes into our monthly treasury system. That self-funding mechanism, not only from an independence point of view, also then allows us to really proactively grow the network and I guess, not rely on, say, donations of time and money. That treasury system not only pays, for example, say, my salary or that type of operating expense, but additionally also allows the community or literally anyone to also put up a proposal to the network. There is a small fee associated with that to eliminate spam, but what that does then is provides a very, I guess, broad opportunity as far as how Dash can grow. And when those proposals are put up on a monthly basis, the masternodes are actually voting on those on a monthly basis as far as which ones will be funded. And then again, obviously, to take that network forward. So we are a little bit different, both in that technology side, but then also how we govern and how we actually operate as a business as well.
And as digital cash, as a payment provider, it's important to get large companies and stores and retail outlets to be using this. And that's why you approached me, isn't it? That you've got a new program to announce.
Yeah, we've just recently announced a new partnership with Rewardscom, which we're very excited about because what that really allows people for the first time to do is you no longer have to buy Dash, you no longer have to mine Dash, you can actually earn Dash through your normal shopping behavior. This is a program where you are making purchases through, I think it's roughly about 7,000 very well known kind of everyday merchants. And instead of earning a cash back reward, which is how it was was previously structured, the customers also now have the ability to earn Dash back with their shopping behavior. So it's that first time to be able to, like I said, really earn Dash and be able to kind of dip your toe in the crypto space without having to actually, again, invest money.
What I find interesting is the fact that big companies are dipping their toes in now. Like a lot of companies have been very interested, but yet hesitant to go live with these crypto projects. And this really is the next step in getting public adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least from kind of our perspective. I mean, I think my view is mainstream adoption is still far away. That's still several years. But at the same time, what can we do today to help start moving that needle? I think if we look at things very, say, broadly, there's really kind of three pillars from an ecosystem point of view that need to be addressed. People need to be able to have an easy way to acquire Dash.
Mhm.
People need a secure and safe way to store Dash, and then finally, people also need, a reason and the opportunity to spend their Dash. And if you really attack and solve for all those three pillars together collectively, that's really what starts creating that ecosystem to really again grow the network and really grow that adoption, into a more mainstream kind of space.
I think that there's likely going to be a few extra steps as well. And one of them, like I always think of what are the challenges to getting mom and dad to use crypto, right?
Mhm.
Like, and now if I wanted to acquire Dash, I'd have to mine it or I'd have to buy it off of some sort of exchange, or maybe receive payment in it for services. But none of those are especially easy. To spend it, you have to find someone that accepts it. But one of the big issues is, where do I store it? Who controls my keys? Who can I trust with the keys? What happens if I lose my keys? How much money do I trust having in cash, in digital cash? It's not always obvious what the solution will be.
As far as mainstream and getting into that broader adoption, what really needs to happen is, I think, maybe at a summary level, it's around kind of the user experience.
Mm.
Um, Today, I think cryptocurrency, especially if we look at it from, would our parents, would our grandparents start using cryptocurrency? Again, that kind of more mainstream kind of view. I think today crypto is still a little bit hard. And I think what we need to see, and this is where Dash is also focusing as well, is focus on that user experience to make it, quite frankly, easier for everyday people to use. One example of that is the cryptographic addresses. Right now,
Mm.
you transact with, and however many characters long, 1XQWZ dot dot dot. That's not a very friendly way to transact. And of course, you get that one character wrong, everything goes wrong. So guess what? Cryptographic addresses, yes, they're needed from a technology point of view, but they're not needed from a user experience point of view. So, for example, Dash in our next network upgrade, what we're kind of internally codenamed Evolution, how do we put those addresses behind the scenes so that the user, for example, is paying or transacting to Billy or to mom or to dad? Again, creating just an easier, more frictionless way for people to transact and use. That's just one side of things. But, to your point as well, it's the overall experience of crypto being so different from how people will use it today. It's really kind of how do you get those worlds to kind of more melt together so that it is more similar and it's more familiar for those everyday people.
There's sort of two directions I could imagine it going, right? One direction would be to go the way of the URL. So, nobody inputs IP addresses to go to a website anymore. What they'll do is they'll put in a URL, which will go to a domain name server. And I know that there's at least one or two companies working on that. And then the other way is the way that the telephone number went, which is very few people will put in a telephone number anymore, but they'll have just a personalized list of contacts. You won't have a domain name server, but you'll just have your own contacts on your device or on your phone. Which do you think is more relevant to something like Dash? Which one of these models?
I think the best in class is really putting it in, well, I guess insofar as this example, it's really around how do you just make it seamless for the end user. And I think in that example, that's really more kind of like the website and the IP address where, today, if I needed to go to dash.org to find more information, I couldn't even begin to tell you what that IP address is. I don't even begin to need to know it to get to the website. Whereas, say, the contact or buddy list would still require, for example, the linking of the user. I still would have to put in, Billy and Billy's address or mom and mom's address. We're really trying to make this completely seamless and automatic, more like the website example.
Because this brings us to another topic I wanted to touch on. Now, before we started recording, we talked a little bit about the issue of privacy. And one issue that comes up with privacy that you don't hear an awful lot about is the idea of personal security. That if you've got personally identifiable information attached to a wallet and you're traveling somewhere, people know that you might have a few $1,000s worth of digital cash on you. On your device, and it may put you at risk of further robbery. I mean, how can we protect people against that? Is this one of those mom and dad situations where you would need some sort of professional management, like a bank account?
Well, I mean, I think this is a very important topic, and I think when privacy today is really kind of brought up, the elephant in the room is around kind of, the obfuscation of funds, how it's being transferred, and things of that nature. And to your point, I think what's often missed in that conversation is around that personal security. It's not always maybe as relevant perhaps in a lot of, say, kind of wealthier nations or countries, but as we know, blockchain's transparent, which means once you're obviously transact, say, with a merchant, you buy your coffee at the coffee shop, that merchant, knowing the address that payment was where the payment came from, could, of course, very easily go back into the address and say, oh, hey, guess what? That person that just transacted has $1,000 worth, has 1,000 Dash in their wallet or has 50 Dash. They can see what that balance is. Though they may not be, though it's just an address that you don't necessarily know who it belongs to, the minute you're transacting in person with someone, that linkage is made. So where this becomes an issue is particularly in, say, countries like Venezuela or Zimbabwe. If you're walking around and people know that you have, let's say, $1,000 worth of digital cash on your mobile phone, that could be very easily a death sentence in some of these markets. You will be kidnapped. You will potentially, be at high risk. So the reality, I think, is that today, when we transact, say, at that coffee shop, we're not displaying our balance to the merchant. So how do we create that exact same user experience in the crypto space? And I think that's where privacy, at least myself personally, where I'd like to see that conversation going to try to really ultimately protect the end user in those situations.
This may be an issue that comes down to wallet clients and distributed apps. Honestly, like even though it may be possible to see personal security for probably 80 or 90% of cases, you're not going to get people who are developing their own D apps to take a look or using a block explorer if they're receiving payments. It could be that this problem becomes reduced simply by making it more difficult.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's a possibility. I think, where the future will hold, I think there's probably a few different options as far as what can be explored. But I think you're right. Ultimately, what the end goal is ultimately, how do we protect that end user? If that end user is displaying inadvertently through the blockchain his or her wealth, that is a personal security risk in certain countries. So I guess ultimately the form that the solution takes, it probably could take a few different forms, might remain to be seen. But I think, ultimately at the end of the day, how do we provide that security? I think that's something that needs to be addressed.
And keeping the honest people honest may be a good starting point, and leading to a solution that keeps the dishonest people honest as well. So I want to bring this back around to Rewards.com and how you've got this new deal. What can we expect going forward now that you've reached a milestone? What comes next for Dash?
Well, I mean, specifically with rewards, of course, really what we're doing, obviously, the first stage is right now, people are able to earn Dash through their normal shopping behavior. So again, rewards.com being a rewards platform where people can shop. Normally, they earn cash back as far as US dollar. Now the opportunity is for people to earn Dash back. So that's kind of phase one, and we're obviously quite excited about that. Where we intend to go after that is then also now allowing people to spend their Dash through the platform. And that additional phase, once we get to that point, really kind of creates, again, where I get excited is that kind of closed loop ecosystem. Because once we get to that point within rewards, what we've actually created is we've got a way where people now are earning Dash, they are storing Dash, and then they are spending Dash all within one platform. Now, granted, they would have to supplement it with additional Dash because your earn rate is going to be lower than what you are spending. But the idea is creating that full closed loop is a first, and it creates some interesting opportunities as far as in how you can obviously grow that through other partnerships or broader kind of adoption.
There's one last question that I want to end with that just comes up as I look at rewards programs in general, is that often rewards programs are cited as a interesting use case for blockchain in general. Now with Dash, you've partnered with a more traditional rewards site that is probably not using blockchain. Is there a reason that you chose rewards.com instead of going with one of the newer decentralized self-sovereign data style rewards loyalty projects?
When we look at just the industry as a whole, we've got a lot of new companies that are being created to address various different elements, like you said, specifically, let's say around, that kind of loyalty platform, as well as existing legacy partners that are also moving into the space. From our point of view, what really excited us about rewards is, having that pre-existing business, having that as a partner really starts to allow us to, I guess, hit the ground running kind of from day dot. So rewards as a platform already has over 7,000 merchants that people can shop with. And those are everyday merchants. That's everything from, say your Bloomingdale's to your Nike.com to your Starbucks. So it's also a spectrum of merchants that also cuts a very, wide path across, applicability, or it will resonate for a larger amount of audience. So overall, what is exciting with the rewards is it creates that instant scale. And it doesn't require then the buildup of, well, now how do we acquire, customers, or how do we then acquire merchants? There is that existing platform that we're immediately able to plug into. Now, from there, it's about how we work together. We work together with rewards to further increase that customer base, to further increase spend, and then in particular in that phase 2, then conversely driving that spend back to those merchants and providing that value back to them. Having that as a pre-existing platform that already has that built, that customer base and that experience for us to leverage and learn from as well, just creates a very powerful synergy as far as how we can, effectively hit the ground running immediately after implementation.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, Bradley Zastrow. He's the Director of Global Business Development for Dash, just announcing his partnership with Rewards.com. Congratulations and best of luck going forward.
No, thank you very much, Nathan. I appreciate it.
Thank you.